if we look at life as an arc, we're all going to have all experiences. Even if we're having unique nuances of those experiences, we're all going to know joy, we're all going to know pain. And often we experience pain as a building block for opening to joy, right? The pressure of pain will eventually lead to the elation of joy. And we're all meant to have all experiences. And through the journey of the ego, each level of ego represents a different reason you believe why things have happened to you. And eventually you realize I'm meant to have all experiences. Just like any light being who speaks from a profound place of love has also had to have the experiences of being less than a light being, because it's only from being less than the light that you learn the importance of your light. The interesting thing to remember as an aside is that we think, because we experience things in linear fashion, that our past lives are in a linear line. All lifetimes are happening simultaneously. So the idea that, oh, if I had a trauma, I must have done something bad in a past life is just a linear misunderstanding. And it's also very abusive, because someone who has been traumatized will, as a trauma response, punish themselves, traumatize themselves as a way of trying to understand what is not quite mentally understandable. But we experience trauma because suffering leads to service. Even if we think of it as I heal my trauma and then realize what trauma I healed in myself, I've actually healed on a percentage in all bodies, because we're all one. So what I heal in myself, I help make more healed in the world I live in. Even we think of it as being a survivor of trauma and being willing to break the cycle of silence and speak about it, and you inspire someone else to dive into their pain versus avoid it. That's a service. Or we learn to speak from a more trauma-informed place of empathy, because we realize everyone holds pain. Everyone has had their version of trauma, and probably what I perceive as mean, judgmental, nasty people are people in the throes of their trauma who don't know it or are trying to avoid it. So suffering and service are connected. And actually, the willingness to be in service is what frees you from being absorbed in your trauma. Because there's the survival of your trauma, then there's I process my trauma, and then that becomes my new security blanket, my specialness, my whatever. The excuses I use to, oh, I'm not safe enough to make that choice, whatever it's going to be. Service is actually what gets you out of using trauma as a form of identification. And service is where we actually start to see how inconceivably selfless the soul is. That the soul is willing to experience a level of personal trauma to know the world it came to help support, and then will heal itself of a trauma that its own divinity guided itself through, just to bust out of a cocoon as a new version of itself, so that that newborn self can liberate so many beings on the planet. That's an inconceivable level of selflessness, which is why most spiritual people think, I must have manifested this. Why did I create this? Life doesn't exist in a linear reality. We perceive it linearly to organize it so we have experiences, but it doesn't happen that way. So none of that's even true on any level, but it's how we try to cope with what is not mentally rational. It is an inconceivable level of love and empathy for the divine to dress up as people, to come down to this world, to go through traumatic experiences, only to liberate the victims and the predators from anything that occurred on this planet. And to know that the depths of pain that exist in this world have been created as a setup to show the entire world what the light has the power to heal. What we are experiencing is the setup of one of the greatest miracles the world will ever experience. And people will say, why is there so much pain? Where is God in all of this? How could there be a loving God in a world like this with trafficking and all the things we could talk about? There is very little awareness of what is being set up. And people will talk about the setup of the collapse of the dollar and the people that run the world. You think that's a setup? The real setup is the world has been created to look like it's being flushed down the evolutionary toilet. So when the light really starts dawning, it can be a big enough miracle to get people's attention and show people what's really at work, who's really at charge. So there is a countdown going on, and it's only Armageddon for people who feed off of darkness. The light is not here to defeat the darkness. The light is rescuing the darkness. Because every atrocious thing the darkness does to a human being is crying out to be freed from a dream it can't stop trying to control. This is a rescue mission. And what is being created as a world that looks like it's more divided than ever is setting the stage for the light to show you how powerful it is. And instantly, within faster than you can blink your eyes, will make this world whole again. And then everyone will remember and no one will forget. And the world will have taken its evolutionary leap, and the earth will have fulfilled its mission at this time in history, which is to manifest heaven on earth, which may not happen tomorrow. We're on the trajectory of this, but the destiny of the earth is to become heaven on earth, which then takes its place as being the heart chakra of the universe. And we are living through the dark days of this realization, and we're living through what I call a divine setup. Religion will call it revelation. They'll think of it as rapture. And this is all just a setup for the divine to create the world that looks like there's no hope left. And then the light awakens and everyone sees. And we're turning the corner towards that prophecy, and we're all living it out. And the more we heal and love ourselves, the more we say, I will be one of those doors that lets this miracle of a light change the world for the better. And each of us right now have the choice to say yes to that. And that's what's so exciting.